Welcome back. In this series of demonstrations, I am going to discuss watercolor paints and color mixing using watercolor paints. So by the end of these demonstrations, you'll have a color wheel looking something like this, and hopefully you will understand the differences between wet on wet color mixing, mixing your colors in your palette, and hopefully what complementary colors are and how to mix them. As you do this lesson, whether it's at home or at school, I'd like you to take notes on some of these ideas and also take notes on some of the ideas of just basic color combinations. Okay? To get started, have your paper in front of you, write your name. I'm Mr. Lundgren, so I'm going to write my name here. And then write your section here. Let's pretend this is a 4th grade class, and let's call it 4B. And then put in your homeroom, teacher. Okay, now as we get started in this area here, you can take notes, write down anything that's important or pertinent to understanding. Alright, so to get started, let's just talk about colors. We have the orange spectrum, the green spectrum, and the violet spectrum. We'll break this up into a couple different videos. Things that you'll need is a paintbrush. I'm probably going to be using this larger nylon bristle brush here. You can use a smaller nylon bristle brush. These two will give you a little bit more control over your water because it releases the water a little slower. Whereas these natural bristle brushes, this one being hog hair and this one being a combination brush, will release the water a little bit quicker, but it'll also hold the water a little better as well. At your table, you should definitely have a paper towel, at least one, maybe two, to dry off your brush as you wash it out and to control your colors. You should have a personal water cup, a cup that is full of water that you'll share at your table, and an empty cup that you'll be using to dump out your dirty water as you clean your brush. Okay, getting started, when you fill up that little water cup, you really don't need that much, maybe like a finger's width of water, not very much at all. We don't want to overuse that. Alright, and as we get started with your watercolors here, sometimes it's nice to take a natural bristle brush, fill it with water. As you can see, it's kind of dribbling, and take just a dribble or two of water and place it inside of your colors if they are already dry. If they're already wet from the previous class, then you should be good. Make sure they're nice and clean so that as you work, your paints don't get muddied up by other colors. Okay, getting started, we're going to do what's called dry on dry, or mixing in your palette. Okay, there are a couple different colors we need to be aware of. We have our yellows, blues, reds, which are our primaries. I have my cool red, warm red, cool yellow. We're going to skip green altogether. And then my cool blue and warm blue. And we'll see all of these as we start laying them down. One important thing about watercolor is that watercolors are transparent, so whatever you put down first should be your lightest color. I'm going to start with my cool yellow. And I'm going to paint this little piece right here, the cool yellow, into this little section. If you read the directions over here, it says in the outside ring, mix wet on wet. On the inside ring, mix the colors in your palette. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be starting to mix our colors in our palette. Now, our palette here, we have a little section here and a little section here and some more sections over on the side there. And what you want to do is use those areas to mix up your colors in your palette, right? This is called a palette, and we want to use it to mix our colors accordingly. So I'm going to choose two sides here. This is going to be my warm colors, like my yellow, my orange, my red. This is going to be my cool colors, my blues, and my violets. Alright, so here's my cool yellow. I'm going to wash my brush out and get my warm yellow. This one here. I'm going to grab some of that and paint it into my warm yellow area. Okay, so you can see the difference between those two yellows. Now I'm going to take that warm yellow that's still on my brush, you see it on my palette there, and then I'm going to mix these two yellows together to get kind of in between yellow. I'm going to paint that in between here. and you'll see on your own paper, it might be hard to see in the video, but you'll see on your own paper that there's a little teeny color adjustment there between the cool yellow, the mixed yellow, and the warm yellow. Okay, now that you've got that, we are going to start mixing our the color spectrum of orange. So you're going to need to start with some warm yellow. As you can see, I've got my palette dirty here. I want to clean it out, so I'm just going to take my paper towel and wipe it so it's nice and clean. Then I'm going to start with my warm yellow. Get some warm yellow in here and put it onto my palette like that. Now I'm going to rinse my brush out, and I'm going to get some warm red. As you can look on the sheet here, warm red is going to be the one that we use here. Cool red will be one we use over here. So we're going to get started with our warm red. I'm going to get a little bit of warm red, put it into this palette, and start just carefully mixing the two together until I've mixed in a fair amount of the warm yellow and I get a color that's just a little bit more red than that warm yellow. Okay, and this we're going to call yellow orange. It's not really orange, it's more of a yellowy color, but it does have a little bit of red in it. Okay, now that I've got that yellow orange in there, I'm going to add a little bit more red in to get a little bit more of an orangey color. So there's my red. Add that in, and here's the color. It should look ever so slightly different. And you're going to have to play with it to get it to be different. Okay, now there you can see that one's just a hair different. In the video it might look very similar, but in class I can show you the difference. It's just ever so subtle. And now I'm going to take a lot more red, put it in to get what I call red orange. Okay, it's much more red, but it still has a little bit of that warm yellow in it. Every time you are working, you should be pulling your brush, whether you're pulling it horizontally or up or down. Always pull your brush. Now this one is orange. I'm going to just add a little teeny bit of this yellow on top. I'm going to take my paper towel and just push it down, not scrub it back and forth, but just push it down a bit and add a little bit more yellow over the top of it because it was looking a little bit too much to the orange side. Now we've got a really good change from our yellow orange to our orange to our red orange. Now I'm going to take my warm red, pure warm red, just right out of the container here, get it on my brush, and paint in this little section that says warm red. Alright, now in the next session we will talk about the next spectrum of color.